The hour of convening having arrived, all members of the House will please come to the floor and take seats. All members, the clerk will ring the bell. All members will come to the floor of the House. All members will come to the floor of the House. We're about to have the morning roll call. All members. All members will come to the floor. We're going to have the call of the roll. All members present will please vote green to signify their presence in the chamber, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? Have all members now voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. Doorkeepers will please close the doors and keep them closed. Well, good morning to everyone. Hope everyone's ready. We've got a busy calendar here today, so we're going to be kind of moving quickly. But we're going to begin with the scripture reading and prayer by the chaplain, after which we will pledge allegiance to the flag. Our chaplain this morning will be introduced by the gentleman from the 120th House District, the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee in this House, Chairman Chanel. Chairman Chanel.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, we have Pastor J. Hodges from the First United Methodist Church in Greensboro with us today, but before I get into introducing him, I want to, if you will, help me welcome his wife. Linda is here. Thank you for being here. Reverend Dr. J. Hodges was born in Fort Worth, Texas, but very soon after, his family moved to East Point, Georgia. After graduating from Norcross High School, he attended Georgia Southern College on a basketball scholarship, and you're about to see in a minute why he was on the basketball team. I've been in the Methodist Church in Greensboro. I've been a member for over 50 years. He's the first 6 foot 10-inch pastor we've ever had, I can tell you. He was also president of his sophomore class of 1967 at Georgia Southern College, and he served as a pastor at the Bullock County Circuit until graduating with a BA in English. Dr. Hodges attended Candler School of Theology at Emory University, graduating with a Master of Divinity in 1972 and a doctorate of ministry in 1991. He served as adjunct professor and supervised ministry for 4 years. In his career, he has served many churches, primarily in the Atlanta area, and he retired from the First United Methodist Church in Millersville. We unretired him recently, and he currently serves as interim senior pastor for First United Methodist Church in Greensboro. During his short time there, he has energized our church, and there's a move afoot to try and remove the interim from his title. Please help me welcome Reverend Dr. J. Hodges, Jr. to our state capitol.
Yeah. Somebody asked me recently, she said, how tall are you? Are you 6'7"? And I said, no, 6'10". Really? I get that a lot, the really. No, I lie a lot, No. I have to tell you that this is quite an honor, and Rusty Kidd invited me to do this a couple of years ago, and it was so exciting. So, Mickey, thank you for the privilege of coming back. One of the reasons I love being here, I'm going to tell you this right now, I love hearing Speaker Ralston's voice. It sounds like God. Every preacher ought to have that voice. It's great. It's great. God would come and visit Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden in the evening. And one evening, Eve met God at the gate of the garden. And she said, God, I have a question. And God said, what is it, Eve? Eve said, God, what's a hug? God said, why do you want to know that? She said, Adam wants to hug me. God said, well, hugs are good. Let Adam hug you. The next night, the next evening, Eve was at the gate of the garden again. She said, God, what's a kiss? God said, a kiss? Why do you want to know that, Eve? Adam wants to kiss me. God said, well, Eve, kisses are wonderful. You can let Adam kiss you. The next evening, Adam was at the gate. And he said, God, what's a headache? Well, now, one of the things I recognize about your gathering here at this time of year is, I would just simply call this headache season, Speaker Ralston was saying we got a lot to do today, and I can imagine. I've seen the big notebooks on your desk, and I don't envy you at all. You've got a lot of work to do, and I'm sure that you'll do it well. The book of Revelation, the last book in the Bible, has some very interesting stuff in it, most of it just plain scary, but it can be said that the message of Revelation is actually found in the first few chapters where John writes the letters to the churches. In one of those churches, John wrote the letter to the church at Ephesus. And he said, here's your problem. You have lost your first love. You have lost your first love. What he meant by that was that the church had gotten bogged down in matters that were really not all that important to the building of the kingdom of God in that region. And I have to tell you that after several years of experience myself being a pastor, that's an easy thing for churches and other institutions to do, to get bogged down. You see, in churches, we oftentimes get bogged down in financial matters. What church do you know that's not struggling financially? I mean, pretty much all of them are. And so we worry how we're going to pay the bills and how we're going to pay the mortgage, and we forget what our mission is. We get bogged down and tangled up in issues of the building, its maintenance, and maybe sometimes building a new building, and we get focused on all of that, and we forget that our purpose is the proclamation of the gospel. Do you remember your first love? No, I'm talking about that first time that your eyes were opened and you saw the most beautiful woman or the handsomest man, and your life suddenly lit up. The beauty and the excitement of it. You just knew that if you could be with that person forever, life would be good. You remember that? Well, just hold that thought for a minute. When you began to consider running for the office that you hold in this sacred place, I have an idea that there was a passion in you about being able to come to this place to make a difference for the people of Georgia. I'm sure that when you ran your campaign, you were hoping that you'd be able to come here and join your colleagues in fruitful debate, discussion of important topics, and when you were done, things would have changed for the better. You had that hope, didn't you? But you've also found out that when you gather sometimes, we can get bogged down in matters that are not essential, in matters that keep us from moving forward with the things that are important. I don't know that there's ever been a more important time in history that elected officials need to work hard at focusing more on what the needs of the people they serve are. It's too easy to get bogged down in worrying about being reelected. It's too easy to get tangled up worrying what our constituents might think, when the real job is serving the people who elected you to this sacred space. So it's my prayer that today you set aside personal agendas, other issues. Look with your eyes out from this place and remember the people in Atlanta, Valdosta, Statesboro, Dalton. These are the people who are counting on you. Remember your first love, the deep desire to make a difference for the people in the state of Georgia. And when you do, you will have done an honorable thing. Let us pray. Almighty God, keep us careful to remember that you care for the disenfranchised, the broken, homeless, hurting, as well as those whose lives are good and comfortable. Keep us aware of the great task that is before us. Open our hearts in such a way that as we meet with, debate with, argue with our colleagues, that we seek only the finest good for the people of this state. And we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, will you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well done.
Thank you so much.
Well done.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure being with you.
I hope you'll be back soon.
Well, I'd like
Doorkeepers will unlock the doors. Chair recognizes Chairman Sims, the chair of the Committee on Information and Audits.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Information and Audits has reviewed the proceedings of the previous legislative day and found it to be correct.
Chairman Sims, the chair of the Committee on Information and Audits, reports that the journal of the previous legislative day has been read and found to be correct. Is there any objection to the confirmation of the journal? The chair hears none, and the journal is confirmed. The clerk will read the resolution establishing the order of business for the day.
Mr. O'Neill, the 146 moves the following be established as the order of business during the first part of the period of unanimous consents. Introduction of bills and resolutions. First reading and reference of bills and resolutions. Second reading of bills and resolutions. Reports of standing committees. Third reading and passage uncontested local bills. Morning orders. Rules, calendar, privilege resolutions through the resolution establishing the order of business for this day.
Is there any objection to the adoption of the resolution establishing the order of business for the day? The chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. First reading of bills and resolutions. The clerk will read.
House Bill 11, Representative Waits, 60th bill being entitled Act relating to school buses.
Education.
House Bill 17, Representative Waits, 60th bill being entitled Act relating to agricultural commodities.
Agriculture and Consumer Affairs.
House Bill 404, by Representative Earhart, 36th bill being entitled Act relating to exemptions, certificate of need.
Health and Human Services.
House Bill 405, by Representative Mayo, the 84th bill being entitled Act relating to elementary, secondary education. House Bill 406, by Representative Peake, the 141st bill to be entitled Act relating to creation of county boards equalization.
Ways and Means.
House Bill 407, by Representative Powell, 32nd bill to be entitled Act relating to ignition interlock devices.
Judiciary Non-Civil.
House Bill 408, by Representative Jacobs, 80th bill to be entitled Act relating to allocating water wastewater.
Governmental Affairs.
House Bill 409, by Representative Knight, 130th bill to be entitled Act relating to provisions of applicant counties, municipal government.
State Planning and Community Affairs.
House Bill 410, Representative Beverly, the 143rd bill to be entitled Act Bibb County Community Enhancement Authority.
Intergovernmental Coordination.
House Bill 411, Representative Welch, 110th bill to be entitled Act relating to deductions, inmate accounts.
State Properties.
Slow down, you okay? House Bill 412 by Representative Harrell, the 106th bill to be entitled Act relating to revenue taxation.
Ways and Means.
House Bill 413, Representative Harbin, 122nd bill to be entitled Act relating to regulations, pharmacy benefits management.
Health and Human Services.
House Bill 414, Representative Smythe, 135th bill to be entitled Act Governance of Columbus, Georgia.
Intergovernmental Coordination.
House Bill 415, Representative Smythe, 135th bill to be entitled Act Government Columbus, Georgia, countywide.
Intergovernmental Coordination.
House Bill 416, Representative Smythe, the 135th bill to be entitled Act Countywide Government, Columbus, Georgia.
Intergovernmental Coordination.
House Bill 417 by Representative Smyer, the 135th, the bill to be entitled Act New Charter, Countywide Government, Columbus, Georgia.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 418 by Representative Fleming, the 121st, bill to be entitled Act relating State Administrative Organization Revenue Collection.
Ways and Means.
House Bill 419 by Representative Fleming, the 121st, bill to be entitled Act Entitled 48, Sales and Use Tax.
Ways and Means.
House Bill 420 by Representative Knight, the 130th, the bill to be entitled Act Entitled 48, relating Tax Execution.
Ways and Means.
House Bill 421 by Representative Knight, the 130th, bill to be entitled Act Entitled 48, Motor Fuel Taxes.
Ways and Means.
House Bill 422 by Representative Peake, the 141st, the bill to be entitled Act Entitled 48, Sales and Use Tax.
Ways and Means.
House Bill 423 by Representative Allison, the 8th, bill to be entitled Act relating to field retriever trials.
Game, Fish, and Parks.
House Bill 424 by Representative Jordan, 77th, the bill to be entitled Title 20, Quality Basic Education Act.
Education.
House Bill 425 by Representative Jordan, 77th, the bill to be entitled Act Title 20 relating to general provisions relative to education.
Industry and Labor.
House Bill 426 by Representative Jordan, 77th, the bill to be entitled Act Title 20 relating to elementary, secondary education. House Bill 427 by Representative Drenner, the 85th, the bill to be entitled Act Title 45 relating to public officers.
Industry and Labor.
House Bill 428 by Representative Waits, the 60th, the bill to be entitled Act Title 49, Department of Human Services.
Health and Human Services.
House Bill 429 by Representative Waits, the 60th, the bill to be entitled Act Title 20, Discipline of Students.
Education.
House Bill 430 by Representative Parsons, 44th, the bill to be entitled Act Title 48 regarding state sales and use tax.
Ways and Means.
House Resolution 411 by Representative Hightower, 68, honoring the life of Trooper Lieutenant Joseph Joy Keith Boatwright, dedicating a bridge in his memory.
Transportation.
House Resolution 412 by Representative General, 85th, a resolution expresses support for the Eastern Corridor, Atlanta, Georgia.
Transportation.
Senate Bill 11 by Senator Carter the 1st, a bill to be entitled Act Title 12 relative to water resources.
Natural Resources and Environment.
Senate Bill 69 by Senator Murphy the 27th, a bill to be entitled Act Title 49 relating to the Department of Juvenile Justice.
Juvenile Justice.
Senate Bill 86 by Senator Stone, 23rd, a bill to be entitled Act Title 17, Greater Protection of Victims of Family Violence.
Judiciary Non-Civil.
Through the first readers.
Second reading of bills and resolutions. The clerk will read.
HB 378 by Representative Hitchens of the 161st, bill relating to labor and industrial relations. HB 379 by Representative Scott of the 76th, bill relating to dispossessory proceedings relative to landlords and tenants. HB 380 by Representative Riley of the 50th, bill to amend an act providing in Fulton County a system of pension and retirement pay for teachers and employees, the Board of Education, Fulton County. HB 381 by Representative Hatchett of the 150th, a bill relating to the authority to the Department of Natural Resources to arrange for and accept federal aid and cooperation, organize volunteer services, cooperate with government entities and civic organizations. HB 382 by Representative Powell of the 171st, a bill relating to general provisions for torts. HB 383 by Representative O'Neill of the 146th, a bill to amend an act providing a new charter, City of Warner Robins. HB 384 by Representative Roberts of the 155th, a bill relating to the authority of local governing bodies in crossing streets under jurisdiction of the Department of Transportation. HB 385 by Representative Battles of the 15th, a bill relating to definitions relative to Employees Retirement System of Georgia. HB 386 by Representative Battles of the 15th, a bill relating to definitions relative to the Teachers Retirement System of Georgia. HB 387 by Representative Bruce of the 61st, a bill relating to the Department of Economic Development. HB 388 by Representative Talton of the 147th, a bill relating to certificates of title for motor vehicles. HB 389 by Representative Taylor of the 173rd, a bill relating to insurance. HB 390 by Representative Mayo of the 84th, a bill relating to sales and use taxes. HB 391 by Representative Stevens of the 164th, a bill relating to revenue and taxation. HB 392 by Representative Allison of the 8th, the bill relating to the authorization of posting of cash bonds, furnishing of receipt to persons posting bond, recordation of receipt of bond on docket, and disposal of unclaimed bonds. HB 393 by Representative Hamilton of the 24th, the bill relating to the Georgia Workforce Investment Board. HB 394 by Representative Hill of the 22nd, the bill relating to carrying and possession of firearms. HB 395 by Representative Shaw of the 176th, bill relating to insurance. HB 396 by Representative Shaw of the 176, a bill relating to licensing of agents, agencies, subagents, counselors, and adjusters. HB 397 by Representative Waits of the 60th, a bill relating to grounds for termination of parental rights and domestic relations. HB 398 by Representative Maxwell of the 17th, a bill relating to unfair or deceptive practices in consumer transactions. HB 399 by Representative Knight of the 130th, a bill relating to aviation revenue and taxation. HB 400 by Representative Sims of the 169th, the bill relating to elections for approval of bonded debt. HB 401 by Representative Stovall of the 74th, the bill to create the Metropolitan Atlanta Aerotropolis Development Authority. HB 402 by Representative Stevens of the 164th, the bill relating to coastal waters, beaches, and sand dunes. HB 403 by Representative Carter of the 175th, a bill relating to definitions regarding a water and sewer project cost tax. H.R. 388 by Representative Parrish of the 158th, the resolution honoring the life of Special Agent Garland E. Fields, dedicating a road in his memory. H.R. 389 by Representative Atwood of the 179th, the resolution requesting the repeal of the $100 billion federal sales tax on health insurance imposed by the Affordable Care Act. H.R. 410 by Representative Glanton of the 75th, resolution requesting that the International Olympic Committee keep wrestling in the Olympic Games after the 2016 Olympics in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Senate Bill 81 by Senator Wilkinson of the 50th, the bill relating to prohibited acts regarding harvesting of ginseng. Senate Bill 117 by Senator Jefferson of the 17th, a bill relating to blasting or excavating near utility facilities. Through second readers.
Reports of standing committees. The clerk will read.
Representative Cooper, the 43rd, Chairman of the Committee on Health and Human Services, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Health and Human Services had in consideration the following bills of the House. Instruct me to report the same back to the House. Following recommendation: House Bill 315, House Bill 317, do pass. Respect to submitted. Representative Cooper, Chair. Representative Sims, 169, Chairman of the Committee Intergovernmental Coordination, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Intergovernmental Coordination has in consideration the following bills of the House. Instruct me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations: House Bill 170, 241, 343, 340, 342, 353, do pass. Respect submitted. Representative Sims, Chair. Representative Weldon, 3rd, Chairman Committee on Juvenile Justice, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, Committee on Juvenile Justice had in consideration the following bills of the House. Instructed me to report the same back to the House following recommendation: House Bill 256, do pass. House Bill 219, do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted. Representative Weldon, Chair. Through the committee reports.
All right, we're about to go on to the local calendar, the third reading and passage of uncontested local bills. For what purpose does the Speaker Pro Tem rise?
Make a motion, Mr. Speaker.
State your motion.
I'd like to ask that House Bill 170 be removed from the local calendar as a whole and postponed to the next legislative day.
Clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 170 by Representative Jones, 47th. A bill to be entitled Act provide tax relief for Fulton County to impose a cap on certain millage rates imposed by Fulton County, provide for future millage rate increases. To amend an act providing a homestead exemption in Fulton County so as to increase the exemption to $60,000 a year after a 2-year period, to provide for a referendum.
On the motion of the Speaker Pro Tem that House Bill 170 be removed from the local calendar and postponed to the next legislative day, is there objection? Chair hears no objection, and it is so ordered. So we will take up the local calendar minus House Bill 170. If there is no objection, we will vote on the local calendar as a whole with a recorded vote not to include House Bill 170. Hearing none, it is so ordered. The clerk will read the local calendar.
House Bill 241 by Representative Gardner, 57th, Fulton County. House Bill 340 by Representative Houston, 170th, Berrien County. House Bill 342 by Representative Ramsey, the 72nd, Coweta County. House Bill 353 by Representative Lumsden, 12th, Chattooga County. These local bills have been before the House Committee on Intergovernmental Coordination. Committee recommends bills do pass. These bills are being read today for the third time.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered on the local calendar? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bills? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall the bills on the local calendar now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bills will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of the bills on the local calendar. The ayes are 160, the nays are 1. These bills, having received the requisite constitutional majority, are therefore passed. All right, we're going on to morning orders. House will come to order. Chair expects the members to give attention and respect to the members in the well on morning orders. The chair recognizes for a morning order Representatives Jordan and Representative Mickey Stevens for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today is a great day. Today is Alpha Phi Alpha Day. In 1906, 7 courageous young men at Cornell University in Ithaca, New York, decided to start their own fraternity. And that fraternity was called Alpha Phi Alpha. Mr. Clerk, would you please read the caption, please?
House Resolution 380 by Representative Jordan, 77th, Representative Stevens, 165th, and others, a resolution commending Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity in the Georgia District chapters and recognizing today, February 21st, 2013, as Alpha Phi Alpha Day at the state capitol.
I would like to ask my colleagues to stand and let's give a round of applause to the great men of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity in Georgia. Fellas, stand.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Representative Kelly for a morning order. Representative Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the House, I come before you today to recognize a group of students from Cedartown High School's FBLA club that's here with us today. I know most of you are, but for those of you who aren't familiar, FBLA is the Future Business Leaders of America. So these students have shown their desire to engage the business community now and in the future, as well as participating in several service projects each year. Now, this group is important to me not only because they're from my high school alma mater, but because I was also a FBLA member and it had a great impact on my life. Additionally, there, I have my cousin who's a member of the club and my aunt who is one of the sponsoring teachers at the school. So I just want to thank them for being here, and if y'all would rise, we would like to recognize y'all today. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes for a morning order Chairman Maxwell, Representative Braddock, Representative Gravely, and Representative Alexander for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and ladies and gentlemen of the House. It's our pleasure today to recognize Paulding County Leadership, Paulding Class 23. They're with us in the gallery, and I've got a resolution I'd like for the clerk to read.
House Resolution 375 by Representative Maxwell, 17th, Representative Braddock of the 19th, Representative Gravely, the 67th, and Representative Alexander of the 66th, a resolution commending leadership Paulding 23 for its 23 years of wonderful service to Paulding County and for other purposes.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk, and if Leadership Paulding would stand, let us recognize you. Got about 30-something folks from Paulding County here today. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you.
Chair recognizes Representative Gardner for a morning order. Representative Gardner.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. We have a special guest in the today, and as chair of the City of Atlanta delegation, I am very proud to ask you to recognize with me the president of the Atlanta City Council, who's been the president for 4 years, has served in Atlanta City Council for 12. Join me, please, in welcoming President Caesar Mitchell.
House will be in order. House will be in order. We're going to welcome some distinguished Georgians who have come to be with us today, and the chair recognizes Chairman Barbara Sims for an invite resolution. Chairman Sims.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a great privilege today. I was never a big-time cheerleader, but I have big-time cheerleaders with me today from Augusta Christian School. They have won the state championship for Georgia and South Carolina. We beat the Carolinas. So I want you to allow me to introduce their coach, Miss Jamie McKee, and she will introduce her girls to you.
Thank you so much. This is indeed an honor, and I would like to introduce my captains. First, our lead captain is Tiaja Robinson, a senior. Carolyn Horde, sophomore. Latisse Bouchier, a freshman. And then one of our young members, Hannah Hopkins. Thank you again.
I think that's incredible. They won after they had come in as runner-ups for 3 years. They deserved it, and congratulations to them. But there are cheerleaders, I believe, in the gallery. Are there other cheerleaders, the rest of the team? If you will please stand so that we can, there you are, recognize them. Thank you. You want to wait and give both of them afterwards, pictures with them afterwards or what?
Chair recognizes Chairman Sims for an invite resolution. Chairman Sims. It's okay. You're doing it. It's on.
Good morning again, and thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to give you a little information about Augusta Christian School. It was founded in 1958 on Christian principles, and it is a growing and great school, as evidenced by our cheerleading team. They've got every possible athletic sporting event you can have. I want to congratulate and recognize the members of the football team who won the state championship this year on November the 17th. These guys and those in the gallery, if you'll please stand if you're a football player from Augusta, yay! Thank you very much. And at this time, I would like to recognize Keith Walton. And let me just ask y'all this. Is there anybody in this assembly that does not want their salsa? Because if there is, I've got a coach over here that is just dying for it, okay? Let me introduce Coach Walters, and he will introduce his team.
Thank you. Indeed, it's an honor to be here. I'm the head coach of the Augusta Christian football team. I brought down on the floor with me my assistant head coach, Charles Cooper, two of my captains, Matt Hersworm and Tyler Robertson, and our defensive coordinator, Nat Eilert. Again, thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to sit in on this today. Thank you.
House will be in order. While we have getting the next group ready, the chair recognizes the chairman of the House Ethics Committee, Chairman Wilkinson, for a morning order. Chairman Wilkinson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, fellow members of the House. I'm so pleased today to welcome to their capital Leadership Sandy Springs. They're sitting in the gallery. Would you all please rise and the leadership stand up and let us recognize you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes for an invite resolution Representative Tanner. Representative Tanner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I have a distinguished group with me. If we have any representatives that would like to come down and join us that are in the Lanier Technical College service area, I'd invite you to come down and join us. Lanier Technical College Adult Learning Center is the third largest in the state of Georgia. Over 5,500 students have received their GED since 2006 through this program. They've won numerous awards, including several in 2012. They're doing outstanding work, and I like to say that we're at Lanier Tech giving people a hand up, not a handout, and allowing them to be able to get an education, to be able to develop a trade, and to be able to earn a living. I have Dr. Linda Barrow, Vice President, here with me. I'm going to ask her to say a few words, but I also think we may have some additional students and possibly staff members in the gallery. If they would, stand up and be recognized if they're there. There they are. Mr. Clerk, would you read the invite resolution?
House Resolution 207 by Representative Tanner of the 9th and many others, a resolution recognizing and commending Lanier Technical College Adult Education Program for its outstanding accomplishments and inviting the members to be recognized by the House of Representatives on a date and upon a time to be designated by the Speaker of this House.
Thank you. Dr. Barrow.
Thank you. I brought with me today John Fantasia Turner, Angela Ayala, John Gerheim, and Sandra Lipkowitz, and lots of others, as you saw. Imagine not being able to read. You go to apply for a job, but you can't read the application, so you make some excuse and take it home with you and get help. Imagine going to the grocery store to buy dinner. You shop by the pictures on the packages and the cans. You know you have a can of chili, but is it spicy or mild? You want green beans, but is the can you're holding salted or unsalted? You go to the pharmacy and have your prescription refilled, but you can't read the instruction. There are so many Georgians in that situation. 17% of the adults aged 25 and older did not graduate from high school. Many of those cannot read or can't read well. Statistics show that over a lifetime, students that have gotten their GED make $450,000 more than those that did not graduate from high school. We need students to get their GEDs when they drop out of high school because it's going to boost our economy. Of course, we need more funding. We can always do more with more, but that's a discussion for another day. We are here today to say thank you to you for all that you do for the adult Georgians who are learning to read and getting their GED and becoming productive citizens. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Let's go over there and get a picture.
We'll just slide right over and she'll take our picture.
Chair recognizes Representative Chokas for an invite resolution. Representative Chokas.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is my pleasure today to welcome everybody at the state capitol to the Georgia Airport Association fly-in at the state capitol. I've got representatives from the Georgia Airport Association, and Georgia is fortunate to have over 100 airports used for general aviation in our state. And I'm going to introduce the guests with us: Robert Mole, Mario Evans, Colette Edmiston, Mike Matthews, and Blake Swafford. They all work and operate general aviation airports in our state and are active members and board members and officers of the Georgia Airport Association. And I want to say something briefly about aviation, general aviation in Georgia. Not only does it provide transportation needs for our state, but it is also used for economic development. And being in rural communities such as America's, we depend upon general aviation airports to bring business prospects to come visit business sites. And 6 years ago, we had a devastating tornado that hit Americas. And with all the trees down, the roads were blocked. So if it wasn't for the general aviation airports and the services that they provide, we would have not have been able to have the emergency personnel come in as quickly and to respond to our disaster as well as they do. But anyway, I would like for y'all to help me welcome and recognize these 5 members of the Georgia Airport Association and thank them for coming to our state capitol. Thank you. Thank you. Quick.
Chair recognizes the chairman of the Economic Development and Tourism Committee, Chairman Stevens, to introduce the doctor of the day.
Ladies and gentlemen of the House, today we have with us Dr. Keith Cobb, is an internal medicine physician and an author from Savannah, Georgia. He is affiliated with South Coast Medical Group and is a clinical assistant professor of medicine. He's also in the same practice as our own Dr. Watson. His office serves as a teaching site for the medical students and residents of Mercer University, my alma mater, the School of Medicine and the Medical College of Georgia. Ladies and gentlemen, would you help us welcome our Doctor of the Day, Dr. Keith Cobb.
Thank you, Representative Stevens. I'm glad to be with you today. If I can be of assistance to you, I'm here today and tomorrow in room 232. And on behalf of the Medical Association of Georgia, we appreciate your service to the state. And if there's anything we can help you with, please come by.
Chair recognizes Representative Williamson for a morning order. Representative Williamson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I'd like for y'all to help me welcome some Walton County students here who are here today in support of Disability Day at the Capitol. If you would stand, boys and girls from Walton County, join me in welcoming these fine young men and women. Thank you so much.
Okay, we're about to go on to the rules calendar. House will come to order. We're about to go on to the rules calendar. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 232. House Bill 232.
House Bill 232 by Representative Battles the 15th, a bill to be entitled Act Amendment Code Section 4721-4 relating to employee and other contributions and Regents' retirement plans so as to change the level of employee participation. Bill has been for the House Committee on Retirement. The committee recommends the bill do pass. The bill is being read today for the third time.
Chair recognizes the chairman of the House Retirement Committee, Chairman Battles, to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is an adjustment to the retirement that was established some years ago. The employees of the Board of Regents of the University of Georgia are required to participate in retirement programs, and depending on their employee benefit and the position, there's two options. One, of course, was teacher retirement system, and then there's also the optional retirement plan. And what has happened is over the years is this has been co-mingled together, and out of that is created some situations of contribution benefits. It's two separate benefits. It's two separate programs. And so what House Bill 232 simply does is that it proposes that the Board of Regents be given the authority to set the operational retirement plan, and the board would perform the review and the rates every 3 years and would consult with the state auditors, the directors of the OPB, and the state accounting officers before recommending any changes. This has been vetted by the TRS system and has been consulted through them and their executive director and their board, and they have no objections to this change. And so I will take any question that you might have, and if not, then I'd ask for your favorable consideration.
You have no questions. Gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered on House Bill 232? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 232 will vote yes. Those opposed will vote no. And the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of House Bill 232. The ayes are 157, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 255. House Bill 255.
House Bill 255 by Representative Rogers, the 10th. Bill to be entitled Act Amending Code Section 40-1-102 relating to certification as a prerequisite to the operation of a motor carrier, passengers or household goods or property, and minimum insurance requirement, amending Title 40, relating to administration of Federal Unified Carrier Registration Act 2005, transfer the administration responsibilities of the Federal Unified Carrier Registration Act 2005 from the Department of Revenue to the Department of Public Safety. Bill having been for the House Committee, Public Safety, Homeland Security. The committee recommends the bill to pass. Bill's being read today for its third time.
Chair recognizes from the hills of Habersham, Representative Rogers to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, present to you today House Bill 255, a fairly simple departmental bill dealing with unified carrier registration. Basically, the gist of this bill is that there are 3 parts to the UCR. It's public safety, or motor carrier safety, motor carrier enforcement, and then the administration of the fee system. Right now, the Department of Public Safety handles 2 of the 3. They handle safety. They also handle motor carrier enforcement, and they would like to handle the administration of the fee system. As it stands right now, I think it's a good bill for everybody. Right now, there's about 40% going into administrative costs, and they're going to reduce that to 10%. It's a saving of $700,000. This $700,000 will be used to hire 21 new personnel, and these people will be placed mainly around the ports of Savannah, resulting in stronger and safer enforcement on the roads and public safety as far as bridges, roads, and bringing more revenue into the state. Mr. Speaker, if there are no questions, I'll yield the will.
There are questions.
I would imagine that there might be, sir. So I'll take questions, and then I'll ask for your favorable consideration.
Chair recognizes Representative Teasley to your left for a question.
Does the gentleman yield?
Always to my close and best friend, Sam Teasley.
Well, thank you, sir. You may not be after this. Just want to be, am I correct in knowing that this is your first time in presenting a bill you've authored?
It is my first time presenting a bill that I authored.
Okay, very good. And you have said to me does this gentleman further yield?
Yes.
Okay, you have said to me a number of times in politics, we need to follow the money. Is that correct?
If the gentleman so states.
All right, very good. Does this gentleman further yield?
Yes.
There's a carve-out provision for Code Section 40-2-131 on line 79. Can you tell me what happens to the fees that fall under that code section? That's on line 79?
On line 79.
It says, notwithstanding the provisions of the code section 40-2-131, the commissioner shall retain and utilize such fees. Do you happen to know what happens to those fees that fall under that code section?
No, I do not know, Mr. Teasley, and I'll be the first one to tell you that. However, if you look into the gallery, the commissioner is sitting there. I'm certain he'd be more than happy to answer your question and to see how you vote on this bill accordingly.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Kirby to your left for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman yield?
Absolutely, to my sweet mate, Mr. Kirby.
Thank you, sir. I understood that you to say that this would create 21 new positions in law enforcement to help protect us, but do you know in the Department of Revenue, how many positions would be lost and perhaps how many children would be affected by their parents no longer being employed?
Mr. Kirby, it's my understanding that the Department of Revenue would not be losing any positions because of this, because, like you, I share a grave concern for the children of this state, and I wouldn't want that to happen, would you?
No, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes the Majority Caucus Whip, Representative Lindsay, to your right for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman yield?
I should have left the well, but yes.
I am surprised that someone from the mountains would be having as their first bill a bill in which, once again, the state of Georgia is losing its sovereignty and knuckling under to the federal government.
Was that a question, sir, or a statement?
Is it not true?
Sir, this bill was already in place, and I'm a firm believer in the 10th Amendment, and I understand the 10th Amendment, but I don't believe that we can do anything. What I'm trying to do is to make certain that if we are going to have to knuckle under the federal government, that what we do is make certain that the money is spent in the best possible manner.
Well, further question. Since you are trying to fall back on the fact that this law was already previously in place, would it not be true that you are the second new person to come to the well and question the wisdom of the Speaker in voting for the earlier piece of legislation?
Thank you for that question. And I think the Speaker, as well as the Majority Whip, realized what great respect I have for their voting decisions in the past.
Congratulations on your first bill.
Mr. Speaker, I think at this time I'm going to yield the well
and
ask for a favorable consideration of this
I think
bill.
that's probably the wisest thing you have done in a while.
Thank you. I ask for your favorable consideration of this bill.
The gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 255 will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. And the clerk will have all members voted. Have all members voted? Have all members now voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of House Bill 165. The ayes are 165, the nays are 2. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 286. House Bill 286.
House Bill 286, Representative Hardin, 148. Bill to be entitled Act about Restructuring Governments of the City of Hawkinsville, Pulaski County. Bill having been for the House Committee on Intergovernmental Coordination. Committee recommends the bill do pass. The bill is being read today for its third time.
Chair recognizes Representative Hardin to present the bill. Representative Hardin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and to the ladies and gentlemen of this chamber, I bring you a bill on behalf of a county and city in my district that have been very progressive in working toward better government and more efficient government in their area. This small county, Pulaski County, and Hawkinsville, Georgia, want to combine their governments. They want a consolidated government because they feel that this way they can better serve the approximately 12,000 people of their county. So they have asked that we consider this new charter today for the Hawkinsville, Pulaski County government. Let me give you just a few of the things that these people have gone through to get to this point. They have already consolidated public safety. The sheriff is the law enforcement agent of the county. They have pulled in the police force, and he is responsible for all public safety in that area. They've consolidated the fire departments. And they're doing this, folks, because it really is better for their constituency. I think they have realized some efficiencies already, and they may be able to lower the taxes for all of their people. Now, let me say in the beginning, the City Commission has adopted this resolution. The County Commission, and by the way, the County Commission is a single county commissioner, which may be one reason the politics were able to work as well as they did. But the County Commission has approved it. They elected a commission, a consolidation commission, who actually worked on the charter, and they have approved this. Now, the particulars of the bill are this. They will go from a 5-member city commission and a single county commissioner to a 5-member commission. That commission would be elected nonpartisan. The sheriff, the judge of the probate court, the clerk of superior court, magistrates, surveyor, tax commissioner, coroner will all be elected on the same basis as they are currently elected. The Department of Justice must approve this because they are creating new districts, of course. There will be 4 districts created, and from those 4 districts, they will elect 1 member of the presiding authority. From the chairman of that authority will be elected at large. The Department of Justice must approve this. Then there will be a special election. The people have not voted on this yet, and it must be approved by a majority of the people within the current city limits of Hawkinsville, as well as a majority of the people in the county before it will go any further. So they have done their homework. They have worked with their people and have come to a consensus on what they want to do. I have the charter with me, if you will, and would be glad to go over any other particular parts. Oh, and one thing I will mention, they do have the support of the entire House delegation, and I can confirm that personally. But, Mr. Speaker, that's basically what the bill is about, just some local people trying to better govern themselves, and I would stand for any questions, or if not, I yield the well.
You have a question if you care to yield.
All right.
Chair recognizes Representative Henson to your left for a question.
Thank you. Will the gentleman yield?
I will.
What is the population of Pulaski County?
The population of the county is 12,010 is the best count I've got.
And follow-up?
Sure.
Is Hawkinsville the only city in the county?
Hawkinsville is the only city. The population of the city of Hawkinsville is approximately 50% of the population of the entire county.
And lastly, are you the sole representative from the county?
I am.
Thank you very much for your answering.
All right. Thank you, Representative.
No further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I would ask for your favorable consideration of this bill.
Gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered on House Bill 286? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of House Bill 286. The ayes are 155. The nays are 12. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 254. House Bill 254.
House Bill 254 by Representative Williamson, 115th, bill being entitled Act amending Title 40, relating general provisions relative to uniform rules of the road, so provide that electronic proof of insurance may be accepted under certain circumstances. Bill has been for the House Committee on Insurance. Committee recommends the bill to pass. The bill is being read today for its third time.
Chair recognizes Representative Williamson to present the bill. Representative Williamson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen in the House, I bring before you today for your consideration House Bill 254. This bill, in its simplest essence, helps bring us into the 21st century. Something that's particularly appropriate that we have all these youth in the audience today, many of whom now are getting all of their instructional materials in an electronic format. This bill simply allows, and I promise I wouldn't use the word simply on a bill, so I've already, there's nothing simple about getting a bill passed, but anyhow, this bill would allow an electronic image to be accepted by law enforcement of our automobile identification cards. Currently, all the insurance companies do distribute paper cards, and this would allow an electronic image of that card to suffice in lieu of your paper card. There is a common misconception about the use of information cards. The current code does require the evidence of the coverage be kept in the vehicle at all times, with one exception, and that exception being in line 60 to 64 in this bill, in the current code, that the requirement is met if law enforcement can verify in the Department of Revenue system that the vehicle is in compliance. However, in those instances for temporary substitute automobiles, newly acquired automobiles, fleet situations, and interstate vehicles, the policy information card needs to be in those vehicles. So be happy to answer any questions anybody might have.
You have a question if you care to yield.
I will yield.
Chair recognizes Chairman Martin to your right for a question.
Gentleman yield.
Yes, I will.
This is a friendly question to the author of the bill. Can one take a picture of using your cell phone of your car, keep that stored in your cell phone, and would that be an adequate measure of an electronic image in your legislation?
Yes, Representative Martin. It's very analogous to where if you were be faxed or emailed a binder as evidence of coverage, that's another electronic, is transferred electronically, is printed out, and similarly, that would suffice. But many of the automobile insurance carriers already provide mobile applications for use on cell phones. Most of the insurance agents are able to electronically send a PDF, email it to the customer. So this will be a convenience factor if the customer chooses to use it. And incidentally, this bill is supported by consumers, policyholders, insurance agents, law enforcement, and the insurance industry, and it comes at no cost to the state. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would ask for your favorable consideration of this bill. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I'll yield the
You have more questions if you care to yield.
I'll yield to one more question.
Chair recognizes Chairman Dixon to your right for a question.
The gentleman yield.
Yes, I will.
Are we aware if this will be valid in other states?
No, sir. This is for the convenience. We can't control other states, but this would give you another means of showing your coverage in the event that there's any kind of misunderstanding, especially at a rental car counter or anything like that. You still will have access to your paper card, but again, most of the insurance companies now are offering mobile phone applications, and you can get real-time evidence of your coverage, which probably would be acceptable to most law enforcement, especially at the scene of an accident where they're trying to share policyholder information for the convenience of getting the correct policy numbers on the accident reports.
Thank you.
I'll yield the well.
Gentleman has yielded the well. No more questions. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 254 will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of House Bill 254, the ayes are 165, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 126. House Bill 126.
House Bill 126 by Representative Hamilton, 24th. The bill will be entitled, Act Title 16, relating to obstruction of public administration, related offenses by definition, to prohibit any person from knowingly and willfully obstructing or hindering any park ranger in the lawful discharge of the park ranger's official duties. Bill having been before the House Committee on Judiciary and Non-Civil. Committee recommends that this bill do pass by a committee substitute. Bill's being read today for the third time.
Chair recognizes the Chairman of the Industry and Labor Committee, Chairman Hamilton, to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I bring to you House Bill 126. This is a measure that was brought to me this past year after, unfortunately, a Corps of Engineer park ranger was attacked while doing his job and was severely beaten. And unfortunately, under state law, in the way he did this, that there's not a provision for felony charges for this, and it would have to go to the federal court and apply through the federal court. And so this was brought to me on behalf of the Corps of Engineers and the Hall County Solicitor, and that's all it really does. It provides also then sanctions for misdemeanor and felony charges. Mr. Speaker, it's a pretty straightforward bill. If there's no questions, I'll yield the bell on House Bill 126 and ask for your favorable consideration.
You had a question if you care to yield.
I'll yield.
Chair recognizes for a question the Minority Leader of the House to your left, Leader Abrams.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman yield?
Absolutely.
I asked this question in rules. My concern is on line 23. Subsection B says that there is it's a misdemeanor if you obstruct or hinder the park ranger. But subsection C on line 23 says that simply offering to do harm in the pursuance of obstruction creates a 1-year felony. So if I say, if you don't get out of my way, I'm going to punch you in the nose, we have now made that a felony under the language of this bill. Can you speak to why that language is included in the way it is?
Well, I think that in speaking with Legislative Counsel, this was their standard code that they recommended. And what I would say to you is that certainly is not the intention, is to protect people that are out doing their job. And I would say if there needs to be further clarification, I'd be very happy to work with you on the Senate side if that's what you want to do. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I'll yield the well.
You had another question if you care to yield. Gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 126 will vote yes. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of House Bill 126. The ayes are 167, the nays are 2. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 234. House Bill 234.
House Bill 234 by Representative Smith of the 70th. Bill will be entitled Act Amendment Title 13 relating to contracts so as to enact a new chapter that provides for notice, automatic renewal provisions in service contracts, provide for a notice to a consumer prior to the automatic renewal of the service contract. Bill has been for the House Committee, Agriculture and Consumer Affairs. The committee recommends the bill to pass, and the bill is being read today for the third time.
Chair recognizes the Chair of the Natural Resources and Environment Committee, Chairman Smith, to present the bill.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I bring to you today House Bill 234, and the genesis of this bill is that the facilities manager of a large church in my district found out after the fact that there were a couple of auto-renewal 5-year contracts in the file, and he didn't know about it until he got increased cost. So I sat about the process of learning about auto-renewal provisions in contracts. Several states have already passed something very similar to this. It is, with most of your states, the effort is to protect the consumers who are considered less sophisticated than a business entity. Of the states that have passed it, the one from Florida seemed to most apt for this provision. So essentially, here's what happens, so you can know what's actually in the bill. This applies only to consumer contracts, not commercial. This bill does not in any way prohibit automatic renewals of contracts. It just requires clearer, more obvious area in the contract where that provision is, and for notification when it's time to renew. The other thing it does, it provides a couple of exceptions for entities that are regulated elsewhere in our code, and if this is not followed, it just deals strictly with the auto renewal aspect of the contract, and that no longer applies. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You have no questions?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the well and ask for your favorable consideration. Thank you.
Lady has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 234 will vote yes. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of House Bill 234. The ayes are 167, the nays are 2. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 264. House Bill 264.
House Bill 264 by Representative Jacobs, the 80th. Bill to be entitled Act Amendment Act known as the Metropolitan Atlanta Rapid Transit Authority Act of 1965 as amended, so as to extensively revise the act, provide for related matters. Bill having been before the House Committee on Transportation. Committee recommends bill passed by substitute. Bill's being read today for its third time.
Chair recognizes the Chair of Martock, Chairman Jacobs, to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I bring before you today House Bill 264. This is a comprehensive revision to the MARTA Act, the enabling law for the MARTA system. MARTA should be the crown jewel of Atlanta's capital, Georgia's capital city. It should be the crown jewel of Metro Atlanta. It should be using 21st century business practices and be poised for success and growth and expansion in the 21st century. But instead, it is an authority that is mired in the business practices of the 1970s, not long after it was created, or that had been around since it was created. It is anticipated and this was revealed in the KPMG management audit that was released in the fall of last year, anticipated to run an operating deficit of approximately $30 million every year through at least 2021. Now, I want to read a provision, or not a provision, but a passage directly out of the minority report on this bill. You know, we have these minority reports that get filed. Oh, that's nice. There's a minority report. Somebody gets to speak, right? Well, I want to read a particular passage out of the minority report because it really gets to the heart of the issue here. MARTA is not funded by, this is from the minority report. These are not my words. MARTA is not funded by the General Assembly. Therefore, the General Assembly should not have purview over its operations. We strongly disagree with the passage of House Bill 264 because as a legislative body, we should not attempt to control a company that is outside our lawmaking parameters. We do not believe in wasting taxpayer dollars by regulating yet another industry and forcing it to be beholden to this General Assembly. Well, my friends, MARTA is not an industry. It is a government authority. And frankly, it could take some lessons that are learned in the private sector, or that have been learned in the private sector, to transform its operations so that it operates more efficiently. But ultimately, the MARTA Act is a state law. We could, and I'm not recommending that we do this, but we could repeal the MARTA Act today and there would be no more MARTA because the enabling law for MARTA is a state law. And as policymakers, we bear some responsibility. And today, we are going to move forward, I hope, with carrying out that responsibility and pulling MARTA in a direction that ultimately yields some operating efficiencies and some business practices worthy of the 21st century so that we can have a transit system in Metro Atlanta, Georgia's capital city, that can grow and thrive and move forward. Now, I referenced the KPMG audit, which was released in the fall. And in the KPMG audit, it's an outstanding document, and I commend it to you. There were some recommendations that we need to take heed of. One is that MARTA very badly needs to rein in employee benefits. Another is that MARTA needs to privatize certain back office functions and certain services that are very expensive to provide, like paratransit bus service. Both of those are addressed here in the bill, and they're two of three cornerstones of this particular piece of legislation, the third being a debt ceiling. And I'll get to a discussion in just a second, or in a couple minutes, of MARTA's unsustainable debt situation that needs to be reined in. Let me hit each of those three cornerstones that I mentioned. First, privatization. MARTA handles a litany of back office functions, first and foremost among them, payroll. They have a payroll department. In the private sector, that's rarely done anymore. You have companies like ADP and Ceridian that provide payroll processing services. But MARTA has a payroll department. There's a whole litany of back office functions that have been identified by KPMG to be privatized, that they should be privatized, as well as the paratransit bus service, which, depending on what estimate you listen to, on average could cost about $30 to $50 to provide a single ride to a single rider for a fare of $4. All of this is unsustainable and needs to be brought under control through privatization, and the KPMG audit finds that MARTA, by privatizing these back office functions, could achieve a cost savings upwards of $60 million. $60 million on an operating budget that today is about $430 million. That is a substantial cost savings, a very real cost savings, and given that MARTA's operating deficit would be about $30 million each year through 2021, one that really puts MARTA on a sustainable path. The second piece is pension reform. Up and down the various levels of government, federal, state, local, and all across this country, government entities are moving to the 401k defined contribution system. And in fact, for non-represented, non-union employees, MARTA already puts those employees on a defined contribution plan. But represented employees, union employees are even new ones who come in are put on a pension plan, which yields long-term unfunded liabilities that need to be reined in and are acknowledged in the KPMG audit that they should be reined in. Well, we are requiring in this bill that starting January 1st, 2014, no employee at MARTA be placed on the defined on a benefit plan, on the pension plan. It has to end somewhere. It has to end sometime in order to achieve the cost savings and end the unfunded liability going forward, and that time is now. And finally, debt service. Our state is constitutionally limited to a debt service of no more than 10%. This is in our state constitution, folks. A debt service of no more than 10% of revenues. MARTA today is running a debt service of 42 to 43% of prior year's sales tax revenues. What we are requiring them to do in this bill is to step that down to 40% after 3 years and 35% after 6 years. Now, you may ask, well, where did you get those numbers from? Well, I got those numbers from requesting a meeting with Keith Parker, the new general manager of MARTA, who, by the way, is doing an outstanding job, and MARTA's CFO, and asking them for scenarios. What would this look like at 40%? What would it look like at 35%? What would it look like at 30%? And achieved a level of confidence that MARTA could still meet its capital needs and rein in its debt service if we step that down to 40% and 35%. And I have to say there's something else startling about MARTA's current debt situation, and that is that they just did a bond issue. And the bond issue was for current capital maintenance, not expansion, not new trains, not things of that nature, current capital maintenance. They floated 30-year bonds for that current capital maintenance, which means that stuff that is fixed today, stuff that is being fixed now, my kids are going to be paying off the bonds for. And so and I could go on and on. I mean, the debts, the debt in whole dollars is anticipated to increase every year for the next 10 years. So we need to rein it in, and that's what we do in this bill. The bill has some other provisions in it which I'll be happy to answer questions about. Two of them are provisions that we had in the old House Bills 1051, 1052 from last time that change who appoints members of the MARTA board, and also gives an additional 3 years of lift on the 50-50 split, which is the current lift on the 50-50 split is anticipated to end, or is required to end, in June of this year. It will under the bill, it will now end 3 years out in 2016. And there is one last issue that I want to address, because obviously we are looking to achieve some efficiencies here in the employee realm at MARTA. You're going to hear some arguments today about Section 13C of the Federal Transit Act, which is a special provision that applies only to transit unions among all public sector employee unions, and it says that that you cannot curtail the collective bargaining rights of a transit union, or else the transit agency will lose federal funding. Well, of course, federal funding accounts for about 1/5 of MARTA's total budget, both on the operating side and on the capital side. The problem is that the union likes to throw out 13C as an argument against every single thing that they do not like in this bill. Now, I've taken the concerns I've heard, and I've looked at how they would apply with regard to the individual provisions. With regard to the pension piece, it presents a problem, or I believe that it presents a problem, so we have some saving language in the pension piece with regard to 13C. But with regard to privatization, I don't believe that it does so. And I say that because privatizing a unionized service means that the private entity stands in MARTA's shoes with regard to the union. They take that service over, subject to all existing collective bargaining units. They engage in collective bargaining with the union when that comes up. And it does not at all curtail collective bargaining. In fact, it has been done successfully in many other jurisdictions across this country to privatize entire bus systems. And we're not proposing to go that far today because it is not within the four corners of the KPMG audit. So, ladies and gentlemen of the House, it is time to build a MARTA that is worthy of the 21st century, that uses 21st century business practices and is poised for growth. MARTA in and of itself is not a private industry, as the Minority Report says, but it could learn a lot from the private sector. And so I ask for your favorable consideration of House Bill 264. And Mr. Speaker, I'm sure I have questions and I will yield for them.
You have questions if you care to yield.
I will.
Chair recognizes Representative Williams to your right for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman yield?
I will.
Representative Jacobs, you know, one of those that I guess I like to be informed, and I appreciate the information that you have brought forth to us. MARTA is a good system. It has some problems, I, for one, will admit. But do you feel like if other counties have gotten involved with Fulton, DeKalb, and Atlanta, that we would have a better system over the years, say back in the 70s and the 80s? When we first developed MARTA?
I do believe that we should have a more comprehensive system in Metro Atlanta, yes. Okay, so I think I'm not going to talk about the history because, I mean, at the end of the day, we have to live in the present day. But we need, but if we should have a more comprehensive system in Metro Atlanta, but we will never get there if MARTA's business practices are as they are today. Never. It won't happen.
But wouldn't you would have to have history to get where we're at today? Well, history have a habit of repeating itself if we don't correct some things over the years. Do you believe that?
Here's what I believe. That if you were to go to Gwinnett County or Cobb County and say, would you like to participate in funding 30-year bonds for current capital maintenance projects, they would look at me and say, are you crazy?
Well, I won't
And
say
so
that.
we have some things that we need to fix. Okay. And that's what this bill is aimed at.
Good. I have no problem with that. With 365 days in a year, would you help me out of those number of days? How many days do you ride MARTA?
I ride MARTA on occasion. I do not ride it all the time because it's not, I mean, it's with my schedule, it is not possible to ride it all the time.
Okay.
And actually, that's a good question as well,
It
Coach
is.
Williams, because at the end of the day, in order to attract more riders, MARTA needs to have a more frequent, more regular schedule and needs to have a more robust transit system. And again, if we do not fix things, if we remain mired in these tired old arguments of the past, we are not going to get there.
Okay, thank you.
You have other questions? Do you care to yield?
I'll yield for one more question.
Chair recognizes the Minority Caucus Whip, Representative Hughley, to your left for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
I do.
Thank you for your work on this bill. I have one question as it relates to the privatization. We're trying to modernize and make good business decisions, but I was concerned about the fact that they're going to be required to privatize without making an assessment as to whether or not it's actually going to be more cost effective to do so. Would you speak to that?
Well, first of all, I think that that assessment has been done through the KPMG audit. Second of all, 5 years is the reason we're doing this is that 5 years is a long time at MARTA. Okay? MARTA hasn't even had a general manager in recent history that has lasted 5 years. And so moving forward with the sound recommendations of the KPMG audit, I believe are necessary. What will ultimately happen, because we have left the parameters of how the privatization done as very broad in the bill, we just basically take those business functions and we say these business functions shall be contracted to a private entity within 5 years, which, by the way, is the timetable the KPMG recommended for that to be done. That those calls about how to do that most cost effectively will all be done by the MARTA board, and we are not taking that discretion away from them at all.
So it is your assumption that if they find that privatization is not the most cost effective to do for those services within the 5-year window, because as you say, 5 years is a long time and the economic forces will change over the 5-year period. So you're saying to me, if it is not cost effective for them to do so, then they won't be required to do that. Is that the correct understanding?
No, I don't believe I said that at all. I believe I said that they are required under this bill to privatize those particular functions. But the KPMG, let's talk about the KPMG audit for a second, because the KPMG audit itself is based upon the best practices of transit systems all across this country. They didn't just look at MARTA and say, hey, MARTA, you need to privatize this, that, and the other business function because the private sector does that. No, they looked at what other transit systems were doing with success around the country. So we are requiring them to privatize those business functions, but achieving those cost savings is going to be within the discretion of the MARTA board. And I believe that they are capable and equal to the task and that they will carry it through.
So let me make sure that I'm clear. We're making a decision that they have to privatize services, which will be based on, in some cases, a report that will be 5 years old at that moment, without any discretion for them to reassess where they are at that moment. It's my only concern. We're talking about good business here, and I'm all for making good business decisions. And just so you know, my husband was, in his former life, a manager of public transit in Columbus, so I understand a little bit about what we're talking about. My only concern is, from a business standpoint, making a decision now, 5 years out, such that nobody could go back and make any adjustments if the economic environment does not support privatizing a service, if that's not going to be most cost effective at that time. That's my only concern.
Again,
I appreciate it.
Again, Representative Hughley, I disagree that that would be the outcome here, because this audit is based upon the long-standing best practices of other transit systems. It is not based upon things that transit systems decided to do yesterday.
One final question. The reason we have public transit, I know you don't want to talk about history, but the reason we have public transit is because in most cases it was not economically feasible for the private sector to provide these services. And so we have to understand that from a historical perspective. And my only concern is, if we're going to move forward, if we're going to modernize, we need to have the flexibility for them to look at it at the time they make the decision and to determine whether or not that's the correct course of action. And I appreciate your work on the bill.
All right, Mr. Speaker, I do want to raise my credibility a bit by showing my MARTA Breeze card and informing the House that I do, in fact, use it. Mr. Speaker, I ask for the House's favorable consideration of House Bill 264, and I yield the well.
Gentleman has yielded the well. The Rules Committee and the chair, all this is on your calendars, had limited to 1 hour on both 264 and 1 hour on 265, with the time to be allocated by the Speaker. And the chair, as has been the historical practice, will divide that up. And so there are 3.5 minutes remaining on the proponent's time. Chair recognizes Representative Riley to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. I rise today to ask for your favorable consideration of House Bill 264. Serving on the MARTALK subcommittee, we have, for the past 2 years, done an extensive review and analysis of all of the operations of the MARTA system. We've done it in collaboration with MARTA management and have taken close attention to the KPMG audit. It is clear, and MARTA management has also acknowledged, that the financial practices currently in place are unsustainable. They have been very cooperative in looking at ways that we have explored to perfect MARTA transit system, as we all recognize it is a key asset for this Metro Atlanta community. Debt management is critical. Financial best practices for sustainability of this system are also critical. House Bill 264 will help provide that for the MARTA system. Our goal is to provide riders and taxpayers in this metro area accountability, efficiency, cost management, and preservation of a very vital asset here in our system. I ask today for your favorable support. Mr. Speaker, I yield the well.
You have 1.5 minutes. Chair recognizes Representative Taylor to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll be real brief since I have 1.5 minutes. This is a big economic development issue for Atlanta also. Having an efficient public transportation system, when we have people come into town to look at locating businesses here in Georgia from other states, is critical. If you get onto the airport and you can't get a train, or the train is unsafe and not reliable, that's a turnoff, first impression that is hard to get rid of. MARTA, as Chairman Jacobs says, has a wage and benefit scale, defined benefits that make it unsustainable. And this is also the opinion of MARTA management. They know they have to change. Had experience with privatization. All the contract cities, the new cities in North Fulton and North DeKalb, have models that have privatized what essentially were public services to a great savings and a great efficiencies. I ask you to support this bill based on the economic development in metro area, and support this bill. And if you don't live in metro area, don't think this doesn't affect you. Atlanta brings a lot of money into the rest of the state. If this fails, it's going to affect the state as a whole. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the well.
Gentleman has yielded the well. We have other members who have signed up to speak on the bill. The chair recognizes Representative Waits to speak to the bill. Representative Waits. Pursuant to the earlier announcement in the action of the Rules Committee, those speaking in opposition to the bill will have a total of 30 minutes. That does not include the minority report, nor does it include the chairman's time. Representative Waits.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening. Good morning. I'm speaking to this issue because this is something that's very personal to me. As a City of Atlanta resident, I certainly understand the importance of protecting taxpayer dollars. However, it is my belief the bill maintains 11 voting members but gives appointment powers. This is not the right one. At any rate, one of the reasons that I am standing today, it is my belief that this bill fundamentally is simply wrong. I believe that this bill actually will cost the taxpayers dollars, specifically $80 million in funding. Specifically, young members will be removed from the pension plan, in essence, causing us dollars because younger members won't be able to pay into the pension plan. Furthermore, the MARTA Act currently provides for appointments for an experienced arbitrator, yet we're utilizing retired judges. I think it's important that we allow local issues to remain local issues. It is my belief that the state doesn't contribute any money whatsoever to MARTA, yet it has its hands in the decision-making powers. I think these decisions need to be left to the individuals that fund MARTA, specifically DeKalb County, Fulton County, and the City of Atlanta. It is my hope that you will vote no on this measure, because I believe that, again, this is a measure that really belongs in the hands of individuals who fund MARTA and not the state of Georgia. Thank you.
Lady has yielded the well. The chair recognizes Representative Williams, Representative Al Williams, to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I live in Midway, Georgia. Population 2,640 when I left. So why am I talking about MARTA? I've been forced to talk about it since I've been pushed into the argument. MARTA's problem is not as simple as it's been laid out to be. Let's break it down some. MARTA is the child of an absentee father. That's why he's in the position he's in. When the birthing process went on, and MARTA was from the wrong side of the track, Daddy got missing. All the days when MARTA needed her diapers changed, Daddy was gone, and burping and spoon feeding. The early years when the heavy lifting was being done, Daddy was missing. Then one day, he grew up and had a lot of scholarship offers. And Daddy decided to show back up. Looks like he might make some money. So here comes Daddy. I'm Daddy. Well, Daddy, what have you done all those nights that he got up late at night with a fever? Well, I was someplace else, I had to be over here. So here we have a developed product. Now all of a sudden it can do nothing wrong. My goodness, the fact of the matter is that the Had it not been for Speaker Tom Murphy, Atlanta would be nowhere like it is now, because he had the foresight to know that we needed rapid public transportation to grow. So he took a chance with this little baby that nobody wanted until the baby grew up and got a big contract. Now I gotta come give you some help. That's late. That is late. And then you're talking about privatization. The advantage I have from Midway, Georgia, that many of you don't have, is that I've actually been in the transportation business. For over 3 years, I did 6 and sometimes 7-figure business with MARTA. I did a lot of business with MARTA. And you know why I did business with MARTA? Because I couldn't afford to do it with a private company. You talk about privatizing paratransit. My goodness, I used to go down and buy passes by the thousands of dollars because I couldn't do it anywhere as cheap as MARTA could do it. Privatization of public transportation is a joke. Now, if you want to cherry pick and give all the little easy, low-hanging fruit to somebody to make a profit off, that's one thing. You don't get mad with the baby because he messed up the first semester. You tighten him up for the next semester. What you're doing here is you're beating him down when you wasn't even present in his formative years. You're stumping him down now for making a C in physics when you never were there to teach him anything at night. Folk, I'm telling you, this is so much bigger than wanting to privatize, than wanting to just do what's best for the taxpayers. What's best for the taxpayers is 20 years ago we should have been running it 40 miles out and in, and yes, those taxpayers from Cobb and Gwinnett and other places would not be complaining about a bond referendum, because they would be riding on rail all the way downtown instead of fighting the stuff I fought this morning on the way in here. I don't care what KPMG says, not in the least, because when I'm paying somebody, they better say what I want them to say. That's about like a pollster. I never heard so many polls in the last 12 months that were exact opposite of everybody. Listen, best practices are good. You can do the very same thing. Those areas that are bad, take care of them. But we're making a rush on MARTA, beating them down, folk we didn't even love. And then I listened, and my friend talked about it. He belittled the Minority Report. My goodness, I spent a lot of years here. I remember when there were 19 Republicans here when I came here with Zell Miller in 1975, and the Minority Report was the greatest thing going then because we had one every day. Nothing wrong with the Minority Report. It's called democracy. Y'all, let's just move the baby up from discount Pampers to some name brand stuff. She doesn't need, she's been raised. She doesn't need daddy to show up after she's full grown. Give her a chance. Let's don't beat up on her because she still has credentials from the wrong side of the track. Let's not beat up on them. We're not going to use them. And I've used MARTA 4 times already this session. Love it. I've ridden rapid transit all over this country. They're as good as you get. Got some problems, clean them up. But don't try to make them the demon. The demon is having to hire these diesel-burning buses to come downtown now when you could have been riding in on emission-free trains if we really, really were concerned about the taxpayers. Thank you very kindly, Mr. Speaker. I'm moving out the well.
The gentleman has yielded the well. That is all of those who wanted to speak on the bill. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. We have a minority report, and under the rules of the House, there are 20 minutes for the minority report. Chair recognizes Representative Gardner.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. That's a little tough to follow. That was a great speech, Representative Williams. Thank you very much for representing Fulton and DeKalb counties so eloquently. I rise to ask you to give MARTA more time to implement this very insightful performance audit that has been described. I have heard Representative Jacobs, who's worked extremely hard on this bill, and I applaud him for his work and his interest on overseeing what's going on with MARTA. I've heard people be complimentary about the management of MARTA. In fact, the KPMG report that is described, this performance audit, was requested by the MARTA board. Representative Jacobs in the committee held up a copy of the timeline created by the MARTA management to implement the recommendations of the performance audit. It is clear they need to improve and fix some business practices. They are well on the way and in process of doing exactly that. Why is it that we need to put into Georgia law, what an authority must privatize? They must privatize payroll. They must privatize very other function, which they probably will privatize. Do we need Georgia law to tell us that? I don't think so. One concern I have, if any of you are still looking at the bill, and I know everybody would rather be at lunch, but this is pretty important to the people of Fulton, DeKalb, and the city of Atlanta. On line 410, where the privatization, the mandating, I'm surprised that we are mandating privatization, but we are mandating that they enter into certain kinds of contracts in their entirety. But at the end, it says, who's going to supervise those contracts? That seems to me the most important function, the supervision of those private contracts. But whose job is that? Well, what the bill says is the authority and its employees may serve. So if they may serve, does that leave it in the hands of the MARTOC committee to be the final law on the final decision maker about these privatization contracts? That makes me very nervous. The other unanswered question has to do with whether federal funds for MARTA will be in jeopardy. Now, I'm not a labor lawyer, but I have seen plenty of letters from the Department of Labor where they have, in fact, told states that they will receive no more federal funds for their transit system because of some things that they put in the law. There's still confusion. I mean, that we know that's true because Representative Jacobs acknowledged that there was some confusion. And as a result of that, he put in an amendment in one area. He amended the law in the pension area to make sure that if federal funds were in jeopardy, this mandate would not go into effect. But there are other areas that the Federal Labor Board is interested in, and we need to make sure that we are not putting those federal funds in jeopardy, unless the real goal is to starve MARTA to death. I hope that's not what's going on. I don't believe it is. But it is certainly a concern, and that there is so much confusion over whether federal funds will be lost. It makes me feel very uncomfortable. Every year we have a law about MARTA. We are revising the board yet again. Every 2 years we decide that we don't quite like the way the board was constituted. So we decide yet again this year we're going to do it slightly differently. Now think about the implications of the appointments to that board in a year where Fulton County, the commissioners of Fulton County who have been the appointers of the board are all being redistricted. It's a huge redistricting of the commission districts in Fulton County. And guess what? While they're all figuring out what their districts are and running for office, we are changing the responsibilities of who appoints this MARTA board. I could talk all day. You can tell I feel passionately about this. My plea to you is we have a performance audit that is excellent. It has made some excellent recommendations. We have spent a lot of time and money, exposure in the media, arguing about who the general manager should be. The new general manager created a timeline for implementation of the privatization recommendations. And instead of giving him the time to do that, what are we doing? We are putting in Georgia law that we are going to micromanage his job. I think that's a terrible mistake. I urge you to send this back. Let us look at it for a year. Let MARTOC do what it is designed to do. Do the oversight of MARTA. Make sure they are, in fact, doing the privatization that has been recommended. If they're not, well, then a year from now would be an appropriate time to come back and do that. But I urge you to send this bill back to committee or vote no. Thank you very much.
The chair of the committee has the final word. Chair recognizes the chairman of the Transportation Committee, Chairman Roberts. He has 20 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield 2 minutes of my time to the Majority Whip, Ed Lindsay.
Chair recognizes the Whip of the Majority Caucus, Representative Lindsay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me just sort of point out a few points. And I do appreciate my friend from Liberty County and his concern about MARTA. I ride it a little bit more than 4 times a year. Here's my breeze card. I do so because MARTA it has a big footprint in my district. I believe I have more MARTA train stops than any other House district in this state. I have 4 in my state. So we are very concerned about MARTA, and we are very concerned about making sure that it remains viable. And as much as I appreciate the concerns of my friend from Liberty County, I think my area is extremely concerned about making sure that this authority continues and is viable into the future. Let me sort of touch on a couple of very quick points here. Number 1, KPMG report. My friend from Liberty County suggested that, well, reports say what the folks who hire them want them to say. Well, MARTA paid for this KPMG report. We're simply just making sure that it doesn't get buried under bureaucracy like so many other reports. Next thing, folks talk about money and whether or not this is in fact going to help MARTA or not. The fact of the matter is, according to the KPMG report, this will save MARTA $50 million a year. $50 million a year. That's a lot of train service, that's a lot of bus service, that's a lot of money that can go to help reduce debt and to help that service out, provide those services to my district that so desperately needs it. Next point that was raised was whether or not the state has been an absent father or not. I remind my friends here that the state of Georgia gave MARTA the authority to impose a penny sales tax in Fulton and DeKalb almost 40 years ago. Matter of fact, over 40 years ago. It was at the time one of the first authorities in the state or local government states to be given that. So it has in fact helped to fund MARTA. As a matter of fact, a large amount of MARTA is being funded by those of you who do not live in Fulton and DeKalb. According to studies made, a huge percentage of the tax dollars that are helping to fund MARTA from the sales tax come from folks who do not live in those 2 counties. So you are helping to fund MARTA. The state of Georgia is helping to fund MARTA. This is a vitally important bill for the future of MARTA. And the board reorganization is part of that as well in terms of making sure that our friends in North Fulton, which is have a stake in terms of selecting board members. They have been forgotten for many years. It's time for them to be part of the table. When the board constitution was first arranged in terms of who got to pick the board members, very little of Fulton County was incorporated.
Over 90% of the population in Fulton County is now incorporated. That's why the cities are going to step up and be able to have a role in picking board members, just as my city, the City of Atlanta, does. Mr. Speaker, I yield the well and ask for your favorable consideration. This is an extremely important bill in regards to the future of transit in Metro Atlanta.
Gentleman has yielded the well. Okay, that's the chairman's time. The previous question has been ordered. What purpose does Representative Gardner rise?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Is it appropriate to have a motion at this time?
State your motion.
I move that we table this bill.
Lady moves that House Bill 264 be tabled. Is there objection? There is objection. Does the lady move? Lady moves. It is not debatable. All those in favor of the lady's motion that House Bill 264 be put on the table will vote yes. All those opposed to tabling will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the motion by the lady that House Bill 264 be placed upon the table, the ayes are 56, the nays are 108. The motion is lost. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 264 will vote yes. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of House Bill 264. The ayes are 113, the nays are 57. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 265, House Bill 265.
House Bill 265 by Representative Jacobs, the 80th, a bill to be entitled Act amending Title 32 relating to mass transportation, repeal provisions relating to suspension of restrictions on the use of annual proceeds from sales and use taxes by public transit authorities, to repeal provisions relating to the Board of Directors of Metropolitan Atlanta Rapid Transit Authority to provide for related matters. Bill has been for the House Committee on Transportation. The committee recommends the bill do pass by way of a committee substitute. The bill is being read today for its third time.
The Rules Committee has limited debate to 1 hour total on this measure. Pursuant to the Rule 33.3, the chair allocates 30 minutes to each side. 30 minutes to each side. Chair recognizes Chairman Jacobs to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, this is a companion bill, House Bill 265. Back when the Transportation Investment Act was enacted, the old House Bill 277, we put two provisions in the general code with regard to MARTA. One of them with regard to the composition of the MARTA board, the other with regard to a 3-year lift of the 50-50 split. We have just addressed both of those matters in House Bill 264. So this is a measure to repeal the two provisions that were adopted in the Transportation Investment Act from the General Code, because we just adopted those provisions in the MARTA Act revisions in 264. Mr. Speaker, I yield the well and ask for the House's favorable consideration of House Bill 265.
You have no questions. The gentleman has yielded the well. Gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. The chair will note that there is a minority report on House Bill 265. The lead signer has waived speaking to it. The chairman does not wish to be recognized. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 265 will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of House Bill 265. The ayes are 156, the nays are 14. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. The chair wants to recognize a former member of this body visiting with us on the floor today, former Representative Keith Hurd from Athens, Clark County. Clerk will read the caption to a group of privileged resolutions. If you have not signed up and want to make an announcement, you must sign up to be recognized, and you can sign up with a messenger. The clerk will read.
These two invitations are invitation resolutions that are being read for the first time today and referred to Committee on Rules. A resolution by Representative Holmes, 129th Committee, Mr. Clisby Clark, inviting him to appear before the House of Representatives. A resolution by Representative Houston, 170th, congratulating the National Women's Club on the 100th anniversary, inviting its members to appear before the House of Representatives. The following resolutions are privileged resolutions being read for the first time today for adoption by this body. A resolution by Representative Waits, 60th, commending Chief Albert John Luthuli and recognizing February 21st, 2013 as Chief Albert Luthuli Day at the Capitol. Resolution by Representative General, 85th, recognizing and commending the DeKalb Choral Guild on its 35th anniversary. A resolution by Representative Williams, 119th, recognizing commending James Robert Chambers. A resolution by Representative Marine, 96, recognizing commending Jong Ho Lee, outstanding accomplishments. A resolution by Representative Allison, the 8th, commending Emma Garrison, her significant achievements. Resolution by Representative Rogers, 29th, on the life and memory of Elizabeth Ann Stringer. Raines Cassidy. A resolution by Representative Wilson, 52nd, on the life and memory of Jamie White Oglesby Sr. A resolution by Representative Dudgeon, 25th, on the life and memory of William Christopher Danley. Resolution by Representative Dawkins Hagler, 91st, honoring and commending Reverend Dr. Yvonne Whitman, her outstanding achievement. Resolution by Representative Dawkins Hagler, 91st, honoring and commending Bishop Carolyn Tyler Guidry on her outstanding achievements. Resolution by Representative Dawkins Hagler, 91st, honoring and commending Reverend Dr. Teresa Fly Brown on her outstanding achievements through the privileged resolutions.
Is there objection to the adoption of the privileged resolutions? The chair hears none, and the resolutions are adopted. House will come to order. We still have business to attend to. This House will be in order. We have announcements, and you might want to listen up to those. Chair recognizes for an announcement Chairman Hamilton. Chairman Hamilton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just want to notify the House Industry and Labor Committee that we have a full committee tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. in 506. 8 a.m. at 506. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes for an announcement the Chairman of the Economic Development and Tourism Committee, Chairman Stevens, for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the Economic Development and Tourism Committee, please meet me in the anteroom immediately on adjournment. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the Chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, Chairman Chanel, for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Income Tax Subcommittee of the Ways and Means Committee will meet today at 2 o'clock in 133 of the Capitol. Following that, at 3 o'clock, the full Ways and Means Committee will meet at 3 o'clock in 606 CLOB.
Chair recognizes Representative Randall for an announcement. Representative Randall.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Bibb County Legislative Delegation will meet in room 415 immediately upon adjournment.
Chair recognizes Chairman Golick for an announcement. Chairman Golick.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Judiciary Non-Civil will meet at 1:30 p.m. today in room 415 CLOB. Judiciary Non-Civil at 1:30 p.m. in 415 CLOB. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the Chairman of the House Transportation Committee, Chairman Roberts, for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The House Transportation Committee will meet at 2 o'clock in CLOB 506. Full House Transportation Committee. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Frazier for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Georgia Working Family Legislative Caucus is meeting right now in room 406. Room 406. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman John Yates for an announcement. Chairman Yates.
Thank you, sir. The Defense and Veterans Affairs Committee will meet in LOB at 3 o'clock. It had been announced that we would take up the Governor's Bill 188, but we will not. We'll take up the two resolutions. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman Carter for an announcement. Chairman Carter.
The full Governmental Affairs Committee will meet today at 3 o'clock in LOB 406. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes the Chair of the House Ethics Committee, Chairman Wilkinson, for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The House Ethics Committee will meet this afternoon at 4 o'clock in room 406 of the CLOB. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman Morris for an announcement. Chairman of the Banks and Banking Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Banks and Banking Committee will meet today, a full committee meeting at 2 p.m. in room 406 in the Coverdale building. 2 o'clock at the Coverdale building, room 406. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Chairman Setzler for an announcement. Chairman Setzler.
Non-Civil Judiciary Subcommittee 2 will meet today in room 415 CLOB upon adjournment of full Non-Civil Judiciary. We're taking up House Bills 156 and 271. 156 and 271 upon adjournment of full non-civil judiciary.
Chair recognizes Representative Dudgeon for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Academic Support Subcommittee of Education is meeting at 2 o'clock, room 515, for 2 bills.
Chair recognizes Chairman Sims for an announcement. Chairman Sims.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The House Intergovernmental Coordination Committee will meet today at 3 p.m. in 403. We've got many bills, so I need all of you there if you can. Thank you so much.
That completes our announcements. Completes our announcements. You may want to listen up to the motion. Chair recognizes the Majority Leader of the House.
Mr. Speaker, I move this House be in recess until 5 p.m. today, at which time we shall adjourn until 9:30. I repeat, 9:30 Friday morning, February 22nd, 2013.
The Majority Leader of the House has moved that this House be in recess until 5 o'clock p.m. today, at which time we would stand adjourned until 9:30 a.m. tomorrow, February the 22nd. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed will say no. The ayes have it. This House will be in recess until 5 o'clock p.m. today, at which time we will be adjourned until 9:30 a.m. tomorrow, Friday, February the 22nd.